So many quilts today start out with simple 2.5-inch strips or 5-inch squares or 10-inch squares. Try the new Shape Cut Pro ruler to cut all your strips and squares quickly and accurately. This ruler has cutting slots every 2.5 inches, and it's so long that you can cut full widths of fabric with this ruler. In fact, if you are a kit maker, you can layer as many as 8 layers of fabric full widths under this ruler to cut your kits. For example, here's a set of 2.5-inch strips that are used in rail fence that were super easy to cut using this ruler. Or you could layer 8 different styles of fabric, cut your 2.5-inch strips, and make your own jelly rolls. Charm packs are very easy to make. Using the 5-inch cutting increment, you would cut at 5, 10, 15, and 20, and then turn your cuts the other direction and subcut to make your squares. So to make charm squares or even jelly rolls is very easy with the Shape Cut Pro ruler. Now let's show you how it works. I'm cutting 2 full widths of fabric here, the green and the pink, but you could actually layer 2 additional ones underneath and cut through 8 layers. Put your fold lines down at the bottom, line them up as well as you can. Put your ruler over the top, lining up the bottom 0 horizontal marking on the fold line of your fabric. And we're always going to start by making a cut at the 0 marking like you see here. And what that does is that allows us to square up the edge of our fabric. I'm going to start by cutting 2.5-inch strips like you would if you were making jelly rolls. So you cut at 2.5, and again at 5, and then you cut again at 7.5, and you can walk your hand up the ruler as you cut, and then I'll put my blade in again at 10, and that'll give me 4 2.5-inch strips. You can also cut 5-inch strips, so let me go over to 15, and I'll cut at 15, and I'll move my mat over here, and then I'll cut again at 20. So I'll have some 2.5-inch strips, and I'll also have some 5-inch strips. So let's take our fabric away and see what we have here. So here I have my perfect 5-inch strips here and here. And then here I have my 2.5-inch strips. I'll just pull one away so that you can see how accurate these really are. It's my perfect 2.5-inch strip. Now, one of the other things that you can do is you can subcut these 2.5-inch strips into squares by simply changing the position of your ruler and using one of the cut edges as your bottom edge, lining up on that 0 horizontal marking. Again, I'll start out by cutting in 0, and then I'll cut at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. And this is where you get all of your perfect 2.5-inch squares. Again, I could be cutting even 2 more layers and getting many more. I can do the same with my 5-inch strips. I can lay my 5-inch strips on the mat if I wanted to make charm squares, and simply subcut those as well. Let's move these down a little bit and keep them all lined up with all your layers underneath. And then line up the bottom edge on that bottom 0 horizontal marking, like so. And again, start out by cutting in your 0, and then I'll cut at 5, 10, and even go up to 15. And look at this. All of these beautiful charm squares, so I'm almost ready to begin my charm pack or have squares readily available to produce a small quilt.